yeah, so there's starting to be some really good inquiries and dialogue and such really productive stuff going on um, in the comment section under the videos that I've been putting out about my experiences with Freddie Lee and FMK and all that stuff. And I think it's just really just getting started. I think we're going to have some really good dialogue as we open up, the different layers of FMK. So one of the questions that I've been asked a couple of times in the last few days that I said I would respond to right away in video regards the point where I start looking into ground grappling training or Brazilian Jiu-jitsu, and where I start posting those videos onto the FMK channel. As one of the conversants pointed out, this is when things maybe start to wobble with the relationship between Freddie and I, or with FMK online in general, because suddenly you see Todai Ryan doing something that's very contrary to the messages that Freddie has been putting out. And so what was that about? Why was I doing that? How did that come about? What was my experience with it? In what ways did it contribute to what's gone on? Basically, my interest in the ground grappling and the jiu-jitsu was not in any way some kind of response to Freddie. I wasn't doing it as a rebellion against him. I wasn't doing it to spite him, anything like that. But when I came into FMK, I came with my own experiential history with the martial arts, and a background where I grew up training with regular, at least medium to hard sparring in a kind of a mixed martial arts. It was a guy who had taken, who had a black belt in Kempo and a black belt in Taekwondo, and had done a year by invitation in the Inosano Academy, and he combined the best of everything that he had. He was really kind of a Jeet Kune Do concepts minded person. So he took the best of what he had and made his own thing, and it was really hard, effective kind of street fighting. And from 12 to 18 I grew up with that. Then I was in the military and for a few years, and after the military I did a year of Aikido, a year of Taekwondo, took a couple of years off, did a few years of Gohakukai, which is Goju Ryu and Tomarite karate, took a extended period off when I started grad school, and then just didn't get back into martial arts right away because my career kind of took off. So I had like I think it was maybe a 9-year period where there was really no martial arts, then back into Gohakukai, and then at that point I was going to be turning 40, and I really wanted to invest myself. I was telling myself, because my experience has been that since childhood, since becoming involved in martial arts, it has, in periods where I'm not practicing, it has always haunted me. It's been something that's it's become a part of me, and I can't escape it, nor do I want to. Those times when I'm not practicing, not a day goes by when I don't think about it. And so as I was turning 40, I told myself, well, this is enough of this taking periods of procrastination and other things and stuff, and let's just do martial arts for the rest of your life. And though I was in the Gohakukai school at that point, that was just one satellite resource for what I envisioned myself doing. And The invitation that Freddie extended online through his videos about FMK was the notion of doing something in the martial arts that was different than what was being done in combat sports, where a person could explore the development of themselves as an actual artist, which was a kind of a discourse that I hadn't run into very often in all of these, different streams of experience that I'd had. This idea that here is a guy who's trying to get together a group or even a community. He has his own physical operation and location in Chicago, but he's extending out at a global scale using YouTube and the internet, and this may be a way to bring people together who have that kind of interest, who want to develop themselves in their martial arts and explore wherever that journey takes them, without having to settle on a particular teacher, style, or that kind of thing. Freddie had talked about it on several occasions as an opportunity to kind of create almost like a university of martial artists, where everybody had something different to offer, but basically we were all engaged in at least an exchange of ideas and such, and the commonality between us would be that we were all our own artists pursuing our own developments, and that we weren't competition fighters. Because a lot of times now when you say the martial arts, people only think about the UFC and that kind of thing. They don't think about the martial arts any other way. And personally, when I look at the UFC, like, I got nothing against it. In fact, I've started to kind of become a fan of it somewhat. I think there's a lot to learn from what's going on in the UFC, but the players in that game are young people and older people, other than being coaches and such, coaches and managers and these kind of things, don't really have a role as martial artists in that scene. So I'm already over the hill in that sense. And so what does that scene have to offer me? Not nearly as much as the idea of somebody, networking a group of martial artists who just have a joy for enjoyment of the training. That's what attracted me to FMK. And FMK was not going to be my everything, but this is a possibility for having a like-minded community. Like-minded in those senses. Now, there are perspectives that Freddie had that he was expressing, and all along I voiced quietly, so as not to be offensive, but I did voice that I don't have the same perspectives as Freddie. In fact, I put together several videos. Periodically I would put something out there that said, this is my developing artistic idea of what I see myself working on and becoming, and this kind of a thing. And it really had to do, I'm a naturalist, right? So that's another aspect that I come to this with. I'm a naturalist, I'm a trained anthropologist, I also am heavily invested in indigenous knowledge, and I live fully immersed and engaged in an indigenous community. So all of that adds to, who I am and what I'm carrying into this thing and what my artistic vision is going to be. And for me, what started to take shape as I played with this idea of creating my own, like being my own artist in the martial arts and such, was that, okay, the martial arts fits into bigger scheme of things that I'm doing, it comprises more the physical aspect, because I already have a spiritual tradition. In fact, my wife and I are very strongly embedded in Blackfoot spiritual practice, and we have responsibilities equivalent to basically like being a something like a priest almost in the Blackfoot tradition. And I won't go too heavily into that in this video, but we do have those kind of responsibilities, and we do know, you know, who we are spiritually, and that is strongly connected because it's an indigenous tradition, and the specifics of it strongly connects us to nature. And so, as I said, I'm also a naturalist, so part of what I'm trying to do as a naturalist is learn the ecosystem inside and out. I want to know every species that I coexist with. I want to know the relationships between them, and in my spiritual Blackfoot sense, I want to learn better how to relate to all of these other living beings who I'm coexisting with, because as a human being, I'm basically the new member in that ecosystem, and I need to learn from the elders, and some of that has already been learned and is embodied in the Blackfoot spiritual traditions, and but there's still a lot to learn, and there's a lot that's been lost through the colonial process that kind of has to be relearned. So I'm engaging with animals and plants all the time, and a big part of the relationship has to be founded in food and diet. And in fact, the Blackfoot name for this place where we live is Gitowsinon, or Blackfoot territory is Gitowsinon, which literally means what nourishes us, what feeds us. So the relationship is really founded on, in that sense, on the exchange of energy through consumption. And so learning how to become a better locavore here and disengage as much as possible from the global food trade that is really putting us all into a state of what would you call it? Not just starvation, famine, because all over North America, if you took away the global food trade, suddenly people would be starving, and that's a famine condition, but it's just hidden from us because we have such ready access to food through this global trade. But really we are in a state of famine, and more we are also entering into a state of extensive drought, where we don't have ready access to waters that we are able to drink except through this industrial system again. And so if you've paid attention to my videos, you've seen me engaging in natural foods, you've seen me engaging in natural waters, in those relationships, and certainly you've seen me trying to improve relationships between human beings and people, both with my engagements with birds and with my engagements with rattlesnakes, and you've seen me studying nature. This is all aspects of, for me, some of the mental, a lot of the mental, a lot of the spiritual, some of the physical. But then I also see that to be a full human being here, I want to develop the capacities that I have the potential to develop as a human being, to be healthy, to be a healthy human being. Not only am I going to eat the food from my local place, not only am I going to be drinking the water from my local place, not only am I going to know all of the other beings here and have different relationships with them that are more natural, but I should be able to move as a human being moves. And when I look around, I see human beings that are really broken, like broken everywhere around me. And so the martial arts and fitness in general is that opportunity to develop my physical capacities in the same way that I'm developing my other capacities to make me a more full and real human being, which is absolutely the artistic goal. And so looking at what is done in FMK and Freddie's way of training, it's really well-rounded. And this is one of the things that I liked about FMK. You give a good amount of time, a good amount of your training to flexibility. You give a good amount of your training to fitness, and then you give a good amount of training to the actual combatives and such. While I don't think that Freddie's combatives are, you know, have a lot to offer me, I was really inspired by the well-rounded blend of training that he was employing, and I adopted a lot of that, and that's one of the things I'm gonna carry away from FMK, is to continue working on the flexibility, working on the fitness, and on the combatives, you know, so I don't have just any one kind of focus, because all my prior experience in the martial arts has really focused mainly on the combatives and not enough on fitness, and not enough on flexibility, and, you know, what have you. So in the time that I was in FMK, I was developing that. My vision, my version of that well-rounded training. And my version included things like running, because I think that's kind of a core, something that human beings are built for. You know, one of the things that really struck me that time that Anderson Silva's leg broke, when I was watching him in the ring, and I saw